What's up, guys? Joel Valley here from Media Glitch, and we are actually out of the studio this week. But don't worry, I got a nice segment. I got to sit down with Patricia Somerset, who plays the voice of Zelda in the new Breath of the Wild. I also sat down with, oh man, there's a list. People from The Walking Dead, people from, there's so many. The reason why I can't remember is because we shot this a year ago at gameonexpo, and right now is almost marks the anniversary. So it took me a year to get you guys this segment, but it's a great one. You're not gonna want to miss this panel. So here it is for you guys. I hope you enjoy.
Patricia Somerset, Canadian-American actress Patricia Somerset began her career with figure skating in the small town of Upper Michigan. With a dream to pursue competitive ice dancing, it eventually led her to Quebec, where she discovered her passion for stage, screen, and voice work. She has several nominated for Best Lead Actresses with Meta Awards, and recently she's the voice of Zelda. She was also has provided full motion capture for 2 Assassin's Creeds in the Ubisoft series, Rainbow Six: The Siege, For Honor, Far Cry Primal, and Deus Ex. Please welcome to the stage Patricia Somerset, or Zelda. Mark Meir has lent his voice talent to the Dragon Age series, provides numerous voices in Boulder Gate's Enhanced Edition and Boulder Gate's Siege of Dragonspear. Mark also stars and he's internationally known for his role as Shepard in BioWare's Mass Effect trilogy. Please give a warm welcome to Mark Meir. Ellen McLean is an opera singer, a voice actress from Nashville, Tennessee. She provides voices for many characters, several video games of Valve. Sorry about that. Among them is Gladys. We all know that. And she's done some things for Team Fortress 2, Half-Life 2, and she's the only person to have her voice in all the games included in the orange box. She has also lent her voice to Guillermo del Toro's film Pacific Rim. Please welcome Ellen McLean. We also have a special guest with us today who has joined the panel, and that is Ellen's husband, John Patrick Lowry, who did Halo 3, Half-Life 2, Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress, and Fear 2, among others. Please give a warm applause for John Patrick Lowry. Dave Fenoy has been a permanent voice working in Los Angeles since 1990, one of the most versatile voices in the industry. You guys might know him as the Hulu guy. I don't know if you knew that or not. But he also does Lee from the Walking Dead game series. Also, he's lent his voice to Beautiful Joe, Saint Rose series, World of Warcraft, Mass Effect 2, Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, Lollipop Chainsaw, Assassin's Creed 3, Grand Theft Auto 5, Batman Games Infamous, Second Son, Elder Scrolls, Street Fighter 5, Final Fantasy 15, StarCraft 2, Metal Gear, Ultimate Spider-Man, and many others. Please welcome to the stage, Dave Fenoy! Melissa Hutchinson. Her resume includes a wide variety of work ranging from TV and radio commercials to children's interactive toys, animation, and video games. Melissa's most current claim to fame has been her voice for Clementine from the Telltale games The Walking Dead. This role earned her a Spike TV VGA for Best Performance by a Female, and the game itself has pulled in over 55 Game of the Year awards since 2012. Please put your hands together and welcome Melissa Hutchinson.
Over 100 Game of the Year awards. I don't know where 55
Thank
came
you.
from. Sorry.
I'm not gonna get it all right. I'm sorry.
No. That might have been in my bio for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So, wow, there is a lot of talent on this panel, on these tables, huh? And then me. But that's pretty awesome to have all this talent in one place. And really what I like to start out with in all panels that I moderate is breaking in stories. We can start all the way down there and come in. Like, how did you break into this business? What, you know, what was that like? Oh man, that moment where you're like, uh-oh, I'm doing something. I think this is pretty big. How was that process for you?
Oh gosh, it's you know, some of us have stories where it was just like more of an instantaneous thing, and some of us have slow burn stories, and mine's a little bit of both. I always wanted to be an actor, always had a thing for animation and doing voices and imitating the voices I heard on cartoons, and growing up I did theater, community theater, mostly musicals. I am that person. For me, the bulb really went off, and I'm totally aging myself, but it was when The Simpsons first came out on TV, and I was around 12. And I think that was the time when I was like, you know, holy shit, this is a woman doing this boy voice. This is, you know, I don't know why I didn't put it together, probably because I was a kid, and Scooby-Doo was a talking dog, and that's just, you know, bottom line. Since you know that time, I had it in my head that I wanted to get into animation, and you know, I'm not going to go into the long story because we all have lots of stories here. But I pursued it. I made it a passion of mine. It took, you know, wasn't as easy as just walking into an agency and saying, "I'm here, represent me." I mean, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but and thank God it worked out, because I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise. And you know, it's been a long journey. I've been doing it for about 16 years now, maybe close to 17. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, 16. Yeah, just kind of stuck with it, and very, very grateful to be here and be surrounded by these amazing actors. And yeah, it's a little brief story.
Dave?
We're going to go, wow, we're all going to be that long. It's going to be terrible.
It's fine. We got some time.
If somebody had told me I'd be a voice actor when I was a kid, I would have gone, huh? What's a voice actor? I did theater as a child in Cleveland. I was a theater major in school until I dropped out and went on the road as a musician. Went back to school, finished off in music. Thought I was going to grow up to be a rock and roll star. Didn't happen. Went into radio to stay close to music, discovered voiceover while I was there. I said, oh, this looks kind of cool, and I don't have to put up with that jerky program director. Took some classes, met an agent who came up to San Francisco to do a class, and in that class she said, you know, you're kind of talented. If you ever decide to come to LA, we'd love to represent you. But since I was a morning jock on the #1 station in town at the time, I was, yeah, I'll do that one day. 3 months later, they fired the whole staff. I went, where the hell is that lady's card? Found it, called her. She said, come on down. I did, and the rest is history.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, my story is a little bit similar to David's. I mean, I started out as a composer and a fusion guitarist, so I like to say that I'm the only person I've ever met who got into acting because the pay was better and the work was steadier. Ellen and I moved to Seattle in '89, and I got a voice demo and got an agent and started doing KFC commercials and Boeing safety films and other glamorous things like that. And when Sierra Online opened up in Seattle and Humongous and some of those early game companies, they started sending out auditions, and I started auditioning and got into this kind of line of work. So it's, I mean, I've always been into art forms that take place in time. Music, storytelling is all kind of the same thing, so it was kind of a natural transition for me.
So I began, you know, as a singer, singing. In 2002, John had been encouraging me to get a voice demo, so I finally did, and got an agent and started to get work, and I sounded the most like a computer, and that's how I got Gladys.
I came into voice acting from the world of improv and theater, and I've done a bit of radio stuff before on CBC Radio. All my stuff's up in Canada. I was lucky enough to be able to get in on the ground floor with BioWare back when they were still doing general auditions. And essentially, I'm probably the worst person to ask, so how do you break into the business? Because my answer is, well, you go to one audition, and then they like you enough that they just keep hiring you all the time. And yeah, so I'm also lucky that BioWare is based in Edmonton. And I talked about this in my panel yesterday. When I started working for BioWare back on Baldur's Gate 2, they were doing a lot of Dungeons & Dragons based stuff, and I was a Dungeons & Dragons player. So in addition to whatever talent I brought to the table, I also had knowledge of the game. I had a sort of shorthand. They could put me in the booth. I wouldn't have to get explanations about what monsters were and whatnot and what alignment is. And so yeah, they essentially just kept hiring me back until I ended up getting cast as Shepard in Mass Effect, after playing a bunch of random monsters and bad guys that would get killed after one line.
Hi, Arizona! Woo! Yeah, we should do like a big whoop and holler. Can we do that? Okay.
Oh, for.
I'm just gonna do this really quick. Look at how I'm avoiding answering this question. All right, can we have like one big, amazing gameonexpo whoop and holler? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. That's the kind of room I love to be in.
She's just.
Did you get it? Take 2.
So happy to be here. So how I got involved in voice acting, I've always had trouble deciding which sort of branch of acting that I wanted to do, and I've never really chosen. I still pursue TV, film, theater, and voice, and I found that for me they all sort of go together. But previous to that, I was an ice dancer, and all I wanted to do was be an ice dancer, and so that actually ended up bringing me to Canada and ultimately to theater school eventually, which strangely was more sustainable than ice dancing, but it was something that I could still train for and be completely engrossed in the process of making art. And so from there, I found voice acting in theater school and was like, oh my gosh, you can get paid for this? So I just started pursuing it at the same time as theater and have been doing that since, and started with indie games and making the demos and putting them out there and doing a combination of like radio and indie games. And that eventually led to Ubisoft work, which was at the time the biggest highlight I could ever imagine, and still is one of those big highlights. But they had a really great studio in Montreal for Ubisoft, so Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six and Far Cry, and those things are out of there. Yeah, and then that eventually led me back to LA, and now I sort of split my time in both places, so there's a larger window to work from. And that eventually led to Zelda, was the LA move. So yeah.
I wish you guys could see her fingernails up here, because she's got like Triforces painted on them.
I do. I like to go with the decals, little nail decals. I got Ubisoft and Triforce nails right now.
That's pretty amazing. So, out of all the roles that you guys have played going down the line, what has been your favorite role that you've played thus far?
Starting with me again.
Some of these might be.
Well, I mean, there's, of course, Clementine is, was kind of life-altering, and, as far as game work, to be able to spend so much time with a character and to have so many seasons of a game with a character and literally grow up with a character has been amazing. I did get to do the voice of Bart Simpson on Portlandia,
No way.
so that was one of those like yeah moments. I just there's a lot of League of Legends fans. That's been cool just because that community is so huge, and I had no idea how big it was. Someone was like, I think your voice is on this game called League of Legends. I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And it was Adam Harrington, he played it for me. I was like, oh yeah, that's me, I totally remember that. And they're like, do you know how many people play this game? I was like, no, I don't. And then I learned. Anyways, definitely the Clementine experience has been just phenomenal. And it's just so fan-driven, and, I can't express the gratitude I have for all the people who've pushed this game forward. So thank you, appreciate it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Oh boy, this question, it's kind of like choosing which is your favorite child. And I have a lot of children. I've had the good fortune of being in about
You've been around.
somewhere between 250 and 300 games. And not actually being a gamer, sometimes I don't remember, and people will come up to me and, oh man, I loved you in such and such a game, and I'm, oh yeah, really? What? And sometimes they have it because of YouTube, and oh yeah, I remember that now. But I got to play Lando Calrissian, I got to play Nick Fury, I've gotten World of Warcraft, Vol'jin, Leader of the Horde, and lots of really, really, really great characters, but I think my favorite would have to be Lee Everett. Because one, he's the closest to who I actually am, and Lee came with gifts. After having been in a lot of games for many years, and being that kind of character actor that you see all the time on television, but you don't know his name. The Walking Dead game won more than 100 Game of the Year awards. I was nominated for Best Voice in a Video Game, won a couple, got to go to London.
Nice.
We got to get in London actually.
They actually, and they have BAFTA awards, and unlike our academy, they recognize voiceover in games, which is huge. So
it's kind of like the Oscars.
Yeah.
But they also include video games, and we were nominated. Some English guy won it, but but I understand what the actors mean when they say it is an honor just to be nominated. It's life-changing because now you are not, oh yeah, that's that guy. Now you're, oh, that's Dave Fennoy. That's Oscar nominated, well not Oscar, but BAFTA nominated, whatever, Dave Fennoy. So Lee Everett, because he let the world know who that character voice was that they'd been listening to.
Right. And let me just say, because you were talking about the awards that they finally acknowledge actors. And me and Mark were talking about this yesterday, just like, man, they really need to give more credit to you guys, because you hear all these other actors that are complaining like, well, I was just in a green screen and I wasn't in the environment and I couldn't feel. And you guys are in a booth sometimes, and like when I play Lee, man, or when I'm playing Walking Dead and Lee's like, and it's just grabbing me, and it's moving me, like some of the things that, and you guys are able to do that in a booth, like there is some talent going on there, and I think you guys need a lot more credit, and a lot more awards, and I just want to say that.
And a lot more money.
And a lot more money, yeah.
Yeah, we'd actually trade the credit and awards for the money. So, I mean, in video games, my obvious favorite is the sniper, because I've gotten to do so much with him. And how many video game characters do you actually get to meet their mom and dad? So that was a lot of fun. But actually, I got to do an Alan Ayckbourn play called Henceforward, where I played a composer, and I also got to actually compose all the music that he composes in the play. And then almost 20 years later, I got to work with Sir Alan Ayckbourn after he'd been knighted in another play of his called Sugar Babies. And those two were incredible experiences. But you wouldn't have seen those because those are in theaters and only hundreds of people instead of millions of people see those performances. But Sniper is great. And of course, one of Ellen's of my favorite memories is playing the bickering married couple at the end of Left 4 Dead. Because we are a bickering married couple, and it's great to get that kind of honesty out there.
So, I mean, obviously GLaDOS, she's, because I am passive aggressive.
Well, considering the help that Commander Shepard gave me to pay my mortgage, I would have to pick him, obviously. It would be churlish of me to do otherwise. That said, I really enjoyed getting to, because I come from a comedy and improv background, I really enjoyed getting to play, in addition, some of the comic relief characters in Mass Effect, like Blasto, for example. And he started out just as an Easter egg, and then, managed to develop his own fan following. Dark Horse put out like a one-shot comic, and again, he was supposed to be just a one-note gag, which was a jellyfish with guns. But yeah, I'll pick Shepard with a honorable mention for Blasto.
Yes, like as far as voiceover, I would say in general, some of my favorite roles to play have been theater roles. And I was thinking of one in particular because I have lots of time because it's coming down to me and they're like, oh, what am I going to say? But there's one really obscure role where I played the Duchess of York in University, and it was full makeup, full costume, and she was 99. And that involved really serious voice work and like 3 hours of sort of remaining in character each time. And it kind of changed my whole trajectory of how I wanted to be an actor after that, like just being able to go that far into a character with the whole mask and the body and everything like that. So that to me is a highlight. But as far as gaming, it has to be Zelda because of the amazing gifts and the fandom and everything that's come with the journey of being part of this Nintendo game. It's so crazy. It's like my first convention was in Kuwait, like a few weeks after. They were like, hey, we're gonna bring you to Kuwait. And I was like, oh, okay. I've been dreaming of traveling for my career and I wanted to travel through work, really hoping that was gonna happen. And then this one was that final thing that sort of cracked it open for me. And it's just incredible. But to sum that up, I would say in general, I really love to play female warriors, and I've been able to do that a fair bit, and that is one of the gifts of my life, I think, to be able to play really strong female warrior characters in general.
Right on. You know what, I think, what was the most challenging role for you guys? Maybe it was not your favorite, but the most challenging, like, because you have to get in these, like, people's heads and who you're portraying and stuff. Do you have one that was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can get this, or I'm not getting it right, or they're like, take 89, let's do it again. You guys have any of you guys?
Are we going down the...
Whatever you want.
No,
let's switch it up.
In Fear 2 Project Origin, I played this guy named Harold Keegan, who started out as a very rough and tough mercenary guy, and they were in this government research facility where they developed a nerve gas which made you hallucinate. And halfway through the game, he sees this beautiful woman that he's hallucinating, and he falls in love with her. I mean, he falls totally head over heels in love with her, and he becomes totally unmanned and becomes this teenage boy, just totally gaga over this woman that he can never be with because he's just hallucinating her. And that to me was a very interesting journey for a character to take in a video game.
Right.
That was probably the most profound thing that I had to do.
You realize, of course, that happens to guys with real girls that they can never get. And
Yeah. No, I had plenty of
it can be so frustrating.
That's right.
Probably the toughest job I ever had, it was a Lucasfilm game, and it was one of the pod racer games. And the whole thing was done in Huttese. And those of you who are not geeky enough, that is the language of Jabba the Hutt. And the whole thing is shouted, Batu Scorchi Kaya! So, I mean, it's just, you're pushing out there. It was a 5-hour session. On the paper, I have it in Huttese. Next to that, what it's being said in English. And the director spoke Huttese. So he's telling me how to pronounce everything, and I'm behind. So we're get through the whole thing. It takes about 2 hours to get through the one time because, sometimes my pronunciation was off. And we're shouting the whole thing because it's the pod racer race. And he goes, oh, that's great. Let's take 5 minutes. And when you come back, we'll do it again. This time with a Jamaican accent, man. So I come back and I'm shouting in Jamaican for the next hour or so in Huttese, and I'm thinking, man, this is done, and my voice is beginning to, and he goes, you need 10 minutes, take it, because when we come back, we're coming back. We're gonna do it one more time in Huttese, but this time with a homeboy accent.
Oh my God.
I got done with the session, went home, the next morning woke up and couldn't talk. And the really sad part was, I do a lot of different things with voiceover. I was supposed to do a booth announce for a sports gig. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the such and such a show. And had to beg off because I didn't have a voice, and that producer's never hired me again. So sometimes it's tough.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm laughing at you.
we're actually laughing with you and crying at a single tear at the same time. I was gonna say, as far as characters, I can't sometimes the hardest game sessions are, I did some voices for Diablo 3, and it was literally just 2 hours straight of like, and by like, 2 hour mark, you're just like, and they're, but they're like just pulling it out of you. Okay, well, we need that, but now you're running. Now slow run. Okay, now it's a fast run. Okay, now like you're being chased. Okay, and then you go to the death, and this is just a quick death. All right, this is a medium death. All right, this is a long, you're rolling around, you're on fire, you're still alive for like 30 seconds, and by the end of those sessions, you are kind of just like, I love this. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be doing what I do. But there are times when you leave and you're like, I don't know if that was such a good idea. But I'm in Diablo 3. So, you're like, it's kind of this.
If we're just complaining, I mean, I already whined about this in an
Corporate
earlier
narration.
when I was doing the Suffering, this is before the 3-voice maximum contract. I did 13 characters in the Suffering. Oh, wow. And if you guys may or may not know, I mean, they
hence the name.
Exactly. If you guys don't know, I mean, they save all the dying for the end of the session because that's the hardest on your voice. And so, I mean, once your brain is pulling out a 13th voice in one session, then you have to go back and scream in a Bronx accent, and then scream in an Atlanta accent, and then scream in a British accent, and it's like, how do you, ah, I'm dying, yeah, I'm dying.
Jolly not good.
Awesome.
And of course, the British guy goes, fluid.
Anyone else? Yeah, I get a similar story because, of course, the Vorcha, I play all the Vorcha in Mass Effect, and they were another thing where you had to save it for the end of the session because you'd blow out your voice at the end because there wasn't a lot of technique employed or really any effects put on the Vorcha. It was basically me screeching in a booth with a mouth half full of water, and yeah, so that was always a little hard on the voice. And they would usually save that for a Friday because, of course, Mass Effect had so much dialogue in it that we recorded it over the course of months and months. You weren't in it necessarily every day, but it was pretty steady work. So that kind of thing. I guess in some ways, Commander Shepard was a very challenging character too, because unlike most characters where it's like you know what your character is, Commander Shepard could be anything depending on who was playing. It could be anything from a completely virtuous Boy Scout to a borderline psychopath who happens to be saving the galaxy. And so that was the challenge that both Jennifer Hale and I faced, was like finding what is the core of Shepard, given the massive amounts of fluctuation you could have in their personality. And in some ways, like just approaching Shepard, the Jennifer Hale, of course, is one of the most prolific voice actors in North America. And I was a fan of hers even before we worked together, from her animation work on Justice League and whatnot. Yeah. And yes, I think, yeah, me too. And so, yeah, it was, the Commander Shepard was one of the largest roles I'd ever, the largest role I'd ever had. I'd mostly done villains and comic relief characters. So it was a little intimidating being told you're going to be the other half of essentially the Meryl Streep of voice acting. So yeah, in some ways it was Commander Shepard.
Yeah, I guess my story is pretty similar in that it had to do with shouting. I'd say one of the more challenging roles that I've done in video games was Ash in Rainbow Six Siege. And it wasn't because the content itself was so hard, it was just there were long sessions of several days in a row of just a lot of shouting at different intensities. And it always happens this way. It's like when you book a really awesome thing and you're like really excited about it, something else gets in the way to make everything really like high stakes and challenging. It was also when I was releasing my album, and so I had an album launch like the night, it was supposed to be like two of those sessions, the album launch and then like another session, and I was like, this is bad, like I'm not gonna be able to sing after these days. And so then they moved it, and then the fact that they moved it, like the release of that, not having that stress, made everything feel so much better and so much easier. But it is intense shouting, that kind of work, and yeah, it does blow your voice out, and you just only have a certain amount in your vocal cords that you can do with whatever technique you employ. So you do have to be a bit careful with those things.
All right. I want to hear from Ellen. She's trying to hide, but...
Victory! The administrator in Team Fortress 2, because everything she says sounds like that. So you do that for 4 hours, that's tiring.
Now,
I would say get a job being a computer, because when you die as a computer, you're just still snide and snarky.
now, do you find companies, has the industry changed over the years? Do you find that companies are now taking that voice strain into consideration and going, you know what, we're just going to do a 2-hour session now?
Well, they have to. The union tells them they have to.
Right.
They have to pay us if they strain our voices now.
Oh, okay, cool. So it is changing, it is getting better because, okay.
We are still on strike.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's kind of a sane strike. We're striking, was it 11 or 12 companies? But even they can have a game that was already in production, right. That we can still work on, or even if they come up with something else, they can, well, for this game, we're going to play by your rules. Right. And a lot of the smaller companies have signed on with the union, and it's about a couple of things. One, money, because we are one of the few genres of voiceover work or acting of any kind that does not get residuals. If you're in a TV show, residuals, movies, residuals, cartoons, residuals, commercials, residuals, video games, the biggest industry, entertainment industry in the world, more money than music and movies combined. Right. Never been a film made $1 billion in a day. We've had several games that have done that. Once your session fee is done, you don't see another penny. Well, the contract allows us to get a little better. I don't think it's as good as it should be, but that's one, money. Two, is that vocal stress. We have had sessions that would last 4 or 5 hours with lots of screaming, and then you can't talk for several days. Right. And especially those of us who may be singers, ruin your voice forever. So now it's down to 2 hours. And the final thing is knowing what you're working on. Right, right. When you're working on a AAA game, which is one of those games that everybody knows what it is, and it's making $1 zillion, the calls of duty and so forth. A lot of times they audition you, and it's, oh, this is Project X. Can't talk about Project X, but it's Project X. And you don't know what it is, your agent doesn't know what it is, so they can't negotiate based on real information about how big this particular project may be. So those are the things that and this is way more information than you wanted to know, but now, I'll tell you the reason I'm sharing this with you, because this is a dyadic thing here. You, the fans of video games and voice actors and the industry, and we who are providing those voices, we're all part of this symbiotic relationship. And we want you guys on our side, because you are who we do it for.
Right on for sure.
And you guys really can have an impact. I mean, there have been a couple of contract negotiations I've been on, where the people who were involved with the product being negotiated with got on email and emailed their websites and stuff like that, and said, hey, we don't like the way these actors are being treated, and if you make some noise, they'll listen, because you're the ones who are allowing them to keep their companies in business. So you guys have an impact.
Right. And I mean, we have fallen in love with your guys' voice. Like, we can pick it out in different, movies like, Pacific Rim. We're like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, that's crazy. Like, so we want to keep those voices healthy. We want to keep them coming for many years to come. So for sure, Now, man, I have so many questions here. I'm not going to get to any of them because I want to open this up to you guys, the Q&A. So if you have a question, I want to invite you right here. Let's form a line, and I will pass you guys my mic, and so we can get those questions like, what game would you like to be in, and all that stuff. So come on, who's going to be first? There we go. Here they come. So it just takes one, and then they all just come.
Don't be shy. Step right up to the plate. Step up to the microphone and ask your question.
Hey guys, Christy from Voice Chasers. So I'd like to ask a craft question if I could. So in video games specifically, you guys are usually in the booth by yourself, and you have a big old stack of stuff for, you know, in a 4-hour session or more. Where do you find the energy for that, and how do you get the context of the actors that are not in the room with you? Is that the director, or are they playing clips from other actors that have already recorded? I'd like to hear the process.
Well, for Portal 2, I did hear Stephen Merchant as Wheatley, his recordings, and I heard Cave Johnson when I was recording the Carolyn stuff. I heard J.K. Simmons. So they did play those for me and then played me for them. So that happened, but usually you're just by yourself and the director's telling you.
Awesome. Good question. Next.
I'd just like to throw in, for BioWare specifically, especially on the Mass Effect games, for Jennifer and I, they really did try to make sure that we had the other performances in our cans when we were doing it. For Keith David, for example, like I had in Anderson's death scene, I had his, and I was talking to Dave about it earlier because of Dave played Okir in Mass Effect 2, and I realized, oh yeah, I was listening to you to your performance when I recorded my stuff. So yeah, BioWare. They have a proprietary system called VADER, and the acronym for it is actually VADER, but they can't call it that because someone owns the rights to that word, apparently. I can't remember, some company, I don't know.
You know what? One of the, just a little more on that acting thing. You really have to be a good actor. You really have to allow the voice of the character to come through. That character's worldview, what is that character thinking, what is that character feeling, who's that character talking to, what's that relationship, and what is the character doing? And when you can visualize the scene, the action, it gives life to the words. You can take the words off the page then and not just say the words that are there. It's knowing that scene and allowing that character to speak through you.
Awesome. All right. I want to get through all these questions, but is that little girl, that's the last one? I just want to make sure, so.
Hi. Okay, so I had a question about just voice acting lessons in LA specifically. Like, what resources would you recommend to any beginner, noob voice actresses and actors?
Is it D. Bradley Baker? Was it him?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I want to be a voice actor.com, D. Bradley Baker. There's so much. LA, I mean, it's vast. But he wrote, just everything you could want to know and more is on that website. Not to shut down your, just go to the website. No, it's all good. I was just wondering, it's just, that's a really good, he put the A for effort into that one, and it's everything you need to know.
All right.
Just to plug a couple other people, Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt also have a book out, and I also teach. I have a workshop, voice acting for video games. It's a 2-day workshop. I do it all over the country and London. Go to Dave Fenoy Voice Training, YouTube, free stuff. Start there, and there's lots of places with a lot of free information before you spend your money.
Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome. Spidey.
I want to take that.
Anyway, hi, it's Jay Poole from Jay Poole's Good Nerd Corner. I have actually a question for all of you. I know only a few of you could probably answer it, but what is your craziest experience on the job?
I'll just speak to like one moment. It's not even on the job, but it's just post job, because conventions aren't really a job per se. But there was one moment in Kuwait, for example, where I was there as Princess Zelda, and suddenly like people ushered this guy through the line, and he came up to the front. They're like, okay, he's a royal sheik. So just and I was like, what do I have to do? And they're like, just sign his thing. And I was like, okay. So he was funding the convention. And he was a royal sheik in Kuwait. And I was like, my character's a sheik. I'm getting a thing signed from a sheik. I'm signing a thing for a sheik. And I'm in Kuwait City right now. That's all. And I was like, this is crazy and awesome.
something that kind of gave me a stop. We were in Dubai and signing autographs, and everybody was great, and they were all enthusiastic. And why is everyone looking at me?
No, sorry, it's just like I was in Kuwait. Well, I was in Dubai, and this one time when yeah.
But it was very interesting because, you know, I mean, people, we always sign them, and I always sign boom headshot because that's what the sniper says, and I'm putting it on a headshot, and I think that's funny. You know, a guy named Safe came up and said, Safe, and it means sword. And, oh, that's very cool, Safe, boom headshot. And a guy named, you know, Muhammad came up, okay, Muhammad, boom headshot. Guy named, and what's your name? Osama. And I mean, hopefully to my credit, the first thing I thought was, so what? My name is John. It doesn't mean I assassinated Abraham Lincoln. But I really felt really bad. It's like I hope he didn't notice me hesitate, because he was just a kid. He was a kid named Osama, and he wanted my autograph. And so I just said, boom, headshot. You know, John Henry Flowery. And he said, oh, this is so amazing. I respect you so much. And but it gave me a start.
Patricia, this is your fault. You started with the Middle East stuff.
I was in the Middle East,
and
yeah,
now
no,
we've
this
been
is a
to
bad idea.
Dubai. And I too have had a chance to go to the Middle East. And I think it's interesting that you brought it up and you've been there. And one of the things I noticed, I was in Qatar and Abu Dhabi and Bahrain, got to go to the Maldives. And these little Arab kids are into the same stuff our little American kids are into.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They want to do the same things we want to do, and they're just as excited as you are about the video games. And yes, they are all Mohammed and all these names. But another thing I like about video games is because it is such a worldwide industry, we have a little bit of a shot to bring us just a little bit closer together.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great question.
Hi, I'm Nate. I'm no one. Don't have a side.
You are someone, Nate.
Thank you.
You are someone.
I just want to thank you for voicing Ash. It really lets me know she's rushing on site in Siege, so she's dead.
That's my pleasure.
And then I guess my question would be, what was it like being approached for The Walking Dead? Because it was kind of the first big Telltale game, and it was really where a lot of people realized how important voice acting is in a game, especially one that's so story-driven. So I just want to know, like, if you saw it and it's just like, whatever, or like, oh my God, this is amazing. So.
Well, first off, I was already a big fan of the franchise. I hadn't read the comics yet, but I was already a fan of the show. And I think the show was going into the second, going into or the second season was done. It was something like that. And I have done a lot of work with Telltale games over the years, but it was still an auditioning process. It's not like we got a role for you. We think you'll be great. I definitely had to go through a few rounds of auditions for Clementine because they were actually auditioning children because it had to be real. This was a risk to throw a kid into. Their goal is like, all right, we're taking a big chance here. You know, we're gonna have our playable character, our main character, meet this little girl, and the goal of the game will be for him to keep her safe, protect her, and teach her how to survive. So it had to be very real, and it was very emotional. When I saw the audition though, when it came through, I was definitely just like, oh my God, I don't care if I'm like, a walker, walking by in a scene, like I need to be on this game. But with Clementine, it just was such an amazing experience, and
I guess I just found this place in my throat. I can't really explain it, but I know, it's kind of heartbreaking, right? Now she's like super old and badass and swears all the time, and I love it.
I do. I'm selfish. I'm more Kenny than Clementine on that. But I mean, it was just, when we, as Dave will probably tell you, when we first saw these scripts and went in to record, it was instantly like, oh, this is different. This is very special. And I'll let you continue on with that.
Well, I wasn't the first guy they hired to play lead. I don't know who this person is, but I got an audition. It was kind of hey, we kind of need this back really quick. I didn't know this quite at the time, but, wow, Walking Dead, the TV show's on. I like the show. Hey, this could be really good. And you never get quite enough in the audition to know how good something can be. You can kind of have a hint. Well, there was a hint there that it was good. I liked how what their description of the character was. It let me know that the writers and the producers were taking this seriously. So I did my audition, sent it in. A week later, my agent calls me and says, "Oh, you booked this thing. They're going to start recording you next month. Blah 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 blah." And I'm living in Los Angeles. Everybody else is living in Northern California, so they fly me up. It's really nice. I feel like a star. And the first 20 minutes in this session, I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is well written. I love this character. I had no idea that it would be as good, as well received, as impactful on the industry as it became, and I feel like I'm just a lucky person to have been in the right place at the right time.
Thank you.
We're running short on time. Let's get these questions in.
Hi, y'all should forgive me. My voice might be a little shaky, but I was wondering, with you guys going up against these huge AAA game characters like Zelda, like the legacy that goes behind Zelda, or like characters that are like never been voiced before and don't really have like a history, like it's a new character like the Sniper or something like that, I'm sure. What kind of research and or are you just kind of told like this is how they are and work with it? Do you do any research behind the characters to really get the feel for how that character wants to be? I'm just curious like what the process is behind understanding the characters that you guys are going into, because you're all so fabulous at it. I just want to know how the magic happens.
I mean, they usually give you some artwork, so you know what the character looks like, and give you a bio, give you some sense of the game, of what it is. If it's going to be like a warfare game, or a stealth game, something like that, so you know that. And sometimes they'll tell you, and we're thinking that this guy is Australian, or we're thinking that this guy is French, or something like that. But even then, at least in the auditions I've gotten, they'll say, so give us that, but give us some other ideas you have too. And then they'll pick the one that they like. Now, as far as the research goes, I mean, you want to know an Australian accent if you're doing Australian, or French, or something like that. You want to know what those vowel substitutions are, what the music of that language is, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, I think that very definitely, if this guy is a professional killer, he's a guy who doesn't get excited about killing. It's his job. He's used to it. He takes it seriously. He can take it humorously. But if you have relationships, who do you feel more powerful than? Who do you feel envious of? That kind of thing can be a real storytelling thing that can help bring the character to life. I mean, I think everybody's nodding here. Everybody knows this stuff. But I think that those are from the voice actor, you want to know what the person sounds like. If you're going to do some sort of dialect or accent, you don't want to mess it up, right? And then you want to know power relationships. Does this guy have a lot of power? Does he not have any power? Is he going for more power? Whatever that might be. And very important to know what the stakes of this particular character are. If he's the merchant in town, well, he's just selling his stuff, If he's a hero, he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he needs to solve these problems. So is that, kind of?
Well, Patricia.
And more.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Patricia, you had some big shoes to fill, because there was not a voice for Zelda really as much as there is now. So how did that?
So I did a combination of, because I really only found out what it was right before I was recording, and I was like, whoa! Because I come from a theater background as well, and I like to research whatever I can, but it's also important to let all that research go at some point. And I would say one of the things that you cannot do when you're voicing something that has a lot of backstory is to forget that in the moment that you're in the room recording, the character is in the present. So all of that backstory can only serve for the present moment. And that goes across the board for any kind of acting. It's all about what they want right now in this room, what is the present context. So I did, like, I tried to, like, you know, I learned TP Hylian just to sort of get myself in a bookish space and, you know, think about the future and have fun with it. You know, and I ordered the books and went back into the stuff that I remembered of it. But ultimately, you're just going to be totally overwhelmed if you're like, how can I be all the embodiments of everything at once? And you're like, no, she's a human. She has stakes. She has a family relationship that are very clear, actually, and very relatable in this case. So yeah, you just go with what you've got, and you try to make it alive in the moment. That's all I can.
Hi, I'm Sheridan. I was just wondering, could you guys go down the line and do like a quick impression of some of your either favorite or most famous characters?
If you're allowed to.
Sit down here.
If you're allowed
yeah,
to.
I did. So I'm like, don't have a cow, man. Whoa, cowabunga, dudes. Now, I'm not Nancy Cartwright. Nobody film that and send it off. I do not want to be sued for millions of dollars I don't have.
I'm gonna call her when I get back to LA.
Damn it.
Tell her you've been doing her. Clementine, keep your hair short. Don't trust anybody. Stay safe.
That's awesome.
Dad, I'm not a crazed gunman, Dad. I'm an assassin. Well, the difference being one is a job and the other's mental sickness.
Killing you and giving you good advice aren't mutually exclusive.
This is Commander Shepard with a vital announcement. We'll bang, okay?
Sorry guys, I can't do Zelda, I really can't. But is there anything else that anybody else, the character that anybody else knows that they can shout out that they want to hear? Ash? Okay. I'm like, Breaching Charge!
There you go. Next question.
Hello, I was wondering, how do you keep your voice healthy between sessions, and how do you get them ready again?
Healthy living, no smoking, get plenty of sleep, and do a warm-up before you have to speak.
Cheap whiskey and never get any sleep.
Okay.
Oh, I've been following John's advice. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have to apologize to you guys. I'm so sorry.
I
will
think
take
we
the
should
little
take
girl.
one
I will
more
take the little girl.
question.
And
One
you guys
more
are gonna have
question.
to, like,
You
ask
heard GLaDOS.
We have another panel coming in.
Yes, one more.
Oh wait, okay. Do you want? Okay, go on.
Help that young lady, sir.
We're gonna get her.
Yeah.
Here's what I want you to ask him.
How do you do your voices?
That's an excellent question.
We watch a lot, well, I speak for myself, but watch a lot of cartoons, and you can tell your mom and your dad, see, it paid off. You were wrong. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
No, that's absolutely true. And you know, I'm married to this voice actor, and one of the reasons I liked him when I first met him is because he did all the cartoon characters from when I was a little girl. He'd do, Dinky Dalton and Huckleberry Hound and Foghorn Leghorn. And
So if you want to get girls.
Now that's kinky. That is kinky.
Can we hear your foghorn?
It's a child.
Let's hear it.
I see, Mom. I see. Listen to me while I talk to you, boy.
That was one of my favorite things. And you know, when you're doing this is the kind of stuff you do, you have no idea you are training for a career.
That's right.
You are just having fun.
There you go. That was a great
Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, let's give a round of applause to our panelists for their time. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for your time. Again, if you want to see this interview and other interviews, the full thing will be posted on Media Glitch on YouTube. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of the con.